And for more now on Kim Jong-un's visit to China, I'm joined by CGTN's current affairs commentator, Einar Tangen. He is in Beijing. So, Einar, I want to get your reaction to this news. What's likely happening behind the scenes?
Well, Elaine, this is a very good example of how Kim has been a master of optics so far, if not necessarily substance. I think he's looking to move beyond that, though. Last year, as Nathan commented, there was a lot of progress in terms of not having things happen. But now at this point, I think he's anxious to make sure that there's some sort of sanctions relief. There's also this issue about how North and South Korea are going to go ahead. Obviously, this kind of divide between the U.S. and South Korea is muddying the waters. But it's very consistent. Kim has been very consistent in consulting with Xi and China, either shortly before or after any large planned meeting with either Trump or Moon. So it's one of these things where he's continuing this. It looks very promising, but obviously he's playing very, very cannily in terms of coming to China just before and strengthening his hand as he prepares for Trump.
And to your point on that, Einar, what do you say about China's role in all this? As you mentioned, this is the fourth time they're meeting. He always comes to China, visits with the president before any major decisions. What does it say about China's regard in all of what's happening in diplomacy on the Korean Peninsula and other issues?
Well, there's two parts to that. First, nothing can really happen without China because verification would be almost impossible unless China is involved. And so, you have this issue where the U.S. is not going to be allowed into North Korea as a third-party fact checker. So China is going to be necessary in that. On the other hand, what it does is for Kim, as I said before, it strengthens his hand that he is consulting with China, the big neighbor, and before or after he's talking to Trump, because Trump now has to add that factor in. It's not simply a one-on-one, the way that Trump would like to portray it. It is a multilateral type of arrangement in which Kim is seeking out allies.
And what will you be watching for happening in Beijing in the next days leading up to the time that Kim Jong-un steps on that train, heads back to the DPRK? What are some of the next steps here?
Well, the biggest steps are, are there going to be any negotiations on terms of trade? Generally, with these trips, there's something that is signed that indicates that China is trying to help North Korea economically, a sign that, sanctions should be lifted, or at least under the guidelines of the UN, some sort of humanitarian effort. The other thing is what kind of joint statement is going to be issued at the end of this. If it's a very strong one where China supports, the nuclearization, along with a step down in terms of sanctions, this is going to become a UN fight. So it'll be interesting to see how this goes. It comes at a very interesting time. Obviously, the U.S. has been rattling its saber by sailing ships through disputed waters. And this will be seen as something that also from the Chinese side is a little unexpected during the midst of a very sensitive beginning round of trade negotiations.
All right, Einar Tangen, thanks for joining us from Beijing.